Hey everybody, Mike Miller with the Herald Times coming to you after Indiana's 86-53 win over Central Arkansas here in front of Santa Price.
That's right.
How are you, Santa Price?
Oh, ho,
This has been a horrible start. Believe it or not, this is the second time we've started this video. This is not going any better, but what's with the hat?
Well, I'm not going to be able to be here on Saturday. I've got to do the desk work, so I wanted to celebrate Christmas, so
Sure.
thought I'd go ahead and do it tonight.
I guess you probably have a naughty and nice list after tonight, eh, Santa Price?
well, I tell you one thing, Devontae Green made it from the naughty list to the nice list tonight if no one else did, that's for sure. Sort of a reappearance of the forgotten man on this Indiana team, if you will.
Yeah, kind of a... after Rob Finney leaves with concussion symptoms, sounds like he's going to be under concussion protocol for probably at least into break. There's probably no reason to play him Saturday against Jacksonville. Devontae Green obviously finished a point shy of matching his career high set last year, I believe, against Ohio State. A guy who we've seen this Devontae Green at times. Obviously, you have the good and the bad sides of Devontae Green. Today, obviously, was much more of the former for a player who. When Al Durham was very shaky to start things, Rob Finney just wasn't available. You had a guy in Devontae who was able and willing to come off the bench and give you actually what you needed and play that good Devontae role.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, I mean, you look at it, he missed 4 games in November. He missed the exhibition game, plays a couple games, misses 4 games, comes back against Duke. Not exactly the best way to reintroduce yourself to college basketball.
Yeah.
At this point, he's basically a month into his season, which means he's just starting to kind of find his legs and find himself, I think, in a lot of ways. So the timing of this actually worked out pretty well for Indiana in the sense that this was a good way for Devontae Green to sort of get some confidence, get something positive going. And, a lot of the criticism, I guess, with Devontae, well, 2 things. Obviously the turnovers, and then secondly, he's just not been hitting shots. Tonight, 6 of 10 from 3, finally knocked down some shots, and only 2 turnovers. I guess that's all right. If you're going to dish out 6 assists, I guess 2 turnovers
29 minutes
is all right.
Something like that, yeah.
He's been committing 2 turnovers a game, better than 2 turnovers a game, playing only about 18 minutes a game in the past 5. So definitely a step in the right direction on all counts. And not only that, pulled down 9 rebounds. So showed you the little bit of everything that he can give to this team. And what I like best is when he's asked about it post-game, he says it starts with defense. If there's one thing that gets him going, it's just, playing good on the defensive end and creating some havoc, creating some steals, kind of getting things going that way. And I thought he did a good job of that and obviously keyed 2 huge Indiana runs tonight, 19-0 in the first half and a 22-0 in the second half.
Yeah, 19-0. It was 14-0 coming out of the break when Indiana was tied 19-19, then 22-0 early in that second half to effectively put away any doubt in this one. We've seen at times once that defense is clicking, Indiana is able to get points, whether it's in transition as they did with Justin Smith today. It felt like they really got him some confidence and got him going off the break. It's a team that when they're able to get stops, I mean, they can lean on that defense and really able to keep that defense into offense. It's something we've seen a lot here often, especially as this team has weathered some slow starts, which is really something they've dealt with over the last month, is just not getting off to very, very convincing starts. They've had turnovers. They've had segments where they're just a little bit topsy-turvy coming out of the gates. But once they're able to kind of find their legs, especially on that defensive end, good things really tend to happen.
Yeah, and that's kind of the weird thing. You try to pinpoint, well, what's the cause of these slow starts, or how do you fix it? And it's like it's a little bit of everything that's causing the problems. Obviously, you're not shooting the ball well. You're turning the ball over, which is creating transition opportunities for the opponent. But even in the half-court defense, it seems like at the start of every game, this Indiana team, as much as we talk about them being a good defensive team, when games start, they just seem lost and confused, and you've got guys sitting wide open at the three-point line, driving to the basket, unimpeded whatsoever. Just kind of a lot of breakdowns, and it's like, as Justin Smith said post-game, it's like it takes them to that first huddle where they get that first time out and they talk about things, and maybe Archie screams at them a little bit or whatever, and then they come back out and they kind of get their act together and figure things out. So for whatever reason, the scouting report doesn't seem like they're locking in on that pregame. I mean, and the good news is this team has shown the ability to adjust. It would just be nice not to be playing out of a hole, especially when you start going against a higher level of competition. Obviously tonight, not so much.
Yeah, no, these last two games here before the break it's kind of about fixing yourself, addressing some of the things that they've dealt with. Slow starts among them, turnovers among them, getting out to better starts among them. I think it was also important, as we mentioned earlier, was Justin Smith too. Maybe just using this as maybe a springboard on the offensive end. We've seen him really do a fairly nice job on the defensive end, taking over some of the tougher matchups Indiana's seen this month against some of the higher competition they've played. These last few games, but on the offensive end, it's been a fair point of criticism for him, for a guy who's really struggled to finish. The one thing that was of utmost importance for him to take that next step on the offensive end this year, finishing and using his strength and athleticism to his advantage consistently. Again today, hitting those first 5 baskets, he only had 5 of those field goals in total, but 3 of those came off the break, and 3 of those came in situations where Indiana could really use Justin Smith to be himself and really take over and find some more confidence, because it's a team that has at times struggled coming off the break and struggled in transition, but when they have a Justin Smith who can jump and who can use his athletic advantage, especially in games like this when you have an undersized team, a team that can't match you athletically, it was probably good to see Justin Smith at least maybe develop a little bit more confidence on that offensive end.
Yeah, the biggest thing for Justin Smith is not to try to do too much.
Yeah.
I think you got 3 buckets in transition, and then I think the other 2 were just off dives to the basket where guys found him basically wide open kind of situations. And that's the thing. When we talk about Justin Smith having trouble finishing, it's usually because he's driven him into traffic, into difficulty, or he goes into the lane. And what I see a lot of is there's a lot of fading away or falling off to the side and not squaring up and going up strong, basically, for his shot. He's just kind of got to find that comfort level and not try to do too much. You want to talk about somebody letting the game come to them. I think he's the perfect example of that. Just be in the right spot at the right time. It'll get him going, and then opportunities are going to arise in the half court as teams start to put that focus on Juwan and on Romeo. That's going to be there. And this was a night, speaking of Juwan, where I find this interesting that when Indiana's in these kind of games, Juwan Morgan's just kind of content to have his little 10 points and 5 rebounds. He's not worried about going out and scoring 20, but you put him in a game situation like Butler when the chips are down and Indiana needs something, then it's boom, go off for 35. So he's just kind of a guy that gives this team whatever it needs, and tonight it didn't really need a lot.
No, it really didn't. Speaking of which, it afforded some of the behind-the-scenes guys who haven't really played, really, frankly, at all this month. Demezy Anderson, Clifton Moore, and Jake Farcewell. Clifton Moore played 7 minutes at Penn State, but otherwise that trio has not played at all since the Duke game. Archie Miller said that on his radio show Monday night, these are 3 guys who have progressively gotten better in practice. We just haven't in the situation or had the luxury of putting some of these guys in, with some of the close games and the back and forth nature of some of the games of late. But you got to see Jake Forrester a little bit, a guy who, whether he really has a role in a rotation sort of way moving forward, I'm not sure. But to get a guy like that some confidence, to get Clifton Moore back in the swing of things, and also to reward a guy like Demezy Anderson, who played a lot early due to injuries and kind of fallen back in the rotation a little bit as guys have gotten back. Probably a little bit good to get those guys some run heading into the break.
Yeah, definitely, because you never know what you're going to need, and Archie Miller has said as much that you never know if you're going to have an injury, you're going to have some foul trouble, like the situation at Penn State where Clifton Moore comes in and has to play for a few minutes in the first half. You never know what's going to happen. I mean, there are 19 games left in the season at this point, so there's plenty of opportunities that are still going to be there, and what you want to have is these guys to come in and fill a spot. I don't know that you get the best idea of what they're capable of when they're all playing together. When you get a lineup that has Demezy and Jake and Clifton out there, and maybe you have I don't know, maybe Devontae or somebody still in there, but you kind of have the second and a half to third team sort of guys out there. It doesn't always mesh real well, and if there's a question mark with all 3 of those guys, I think it's, can they play at the level defensively that this team needs them to? I think if you're playing them individually in a spot for 2 or 3 minutes, I think they can handle that. They can get the job done and not be exploited too much. I think in a more extended role, I think the more you put them out there, the more other teams are going to kind of figure out that this is an opportunity to exploit them defensively in those kind of situations. But all 3 guys have shown their moments. Clifton, obviously, like his length, his ability to rebound, alter shots defensively. Even if he's not always in the right position defensively, he can really make up a lot of ground. Forrester's shown a nice touch offensively. Didn't really come in as a guy highly regarded as an offensive talent, but he's shown a nice touch and ability to finish around the basket. Scored 8 points in limited minutes tonight. And Demezy Anderson, right now, he's probably the guy most out of rhythm of that bunch, I think, because after playing so much early in the season. Now he wants to come in and do something when he gets the opportunity, but his shot's not there, and maybe the confidence isn't that was there early in the year's not there right now. I think that's something he's just going to have to adjust to and figure out. It's probably part of the freshman curve and the up and down, the roller coaster that goes with being a freshman. So what you hope is that you have another situation like this against Jacksonville on Saturday where those guys can again get some minutes. What you'd like is not to get off to that slow start, maybe build a little bit more of a lead, maybe throw those guys in the first half or sprinkle them in with the first team guys so that you can get a little better sense of what they might look like.
Yep, we'll see. One more tune-up before what will be an 11-day break in between games before Indiana opens up. Big Ten play against Illinois, I believe on January 3rd, I want to say, here at Assembly Hall. Then heads up to Ann Arbor a few days later for a big Big Ten matchup against Michigan. So, again, one more tune-up, and then it's Christmas, and everyone goes their separate ways. A break. Archie Miller was saying we'll talk about, well, I guess you won't talk about it, but yeah.
Mike will talk about it.
Had an opportunity to break these games up and put one right after Christmas, but just thought he would get everyone, an actual break for Christmas, and then get them away, and then get them back in a rhythm to go into Big Ten play. So one more of these, and again, we're back in the conference season. So that'll do it from here. An 86-53 win for Indiana, which has now won 5 straight games, and one more to go before Christmas break. And Santa Price visits all your homes.
Well, I guess last thing before I close out, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that our thoughts are with Terry Hutchins, a longtime IU writer and colleague of ours that was in an accident, and thoughts and prayers with Terry, and hopefully he can recover and things can go well there.
Yeah, it's a really tough situation. Definitely appreciate Archie Miller acknowledging Hutch in his post-game remarks tonight. Indiana's going to leave Hutch's seat open for the rest of the year. Hutch it's a real tough situation. Obviously, our hearts are with Hutch and his family right now. Wish he was here tonight. It was a lot. It was an empty feeling without him. So definitely wishing him the best, and we'll see you guys soon.